Good morning, you beautiful franchise people. I actually don't know if you're beautiful or not. I'm just going to assume that you are beautiful because inside you've joined franchising and that makes you beautiful, period. I'm Nick Powles, publisher of 1851franchise.com and CEO of The Growth Club. You can see the URL on the screen. If you want more information on Growth Club, head over there. 1851franchise.com is your resource for all news and information on franchising. And actually, before I kick this off, if you are watching this within the time frame of 2024, congratulations, you get the breaking news. Fran Camp, which is our masterclass on how to help you grow your franchise brand. Fran Camp will be September 16th through the 18th in Chicago. That's the fall camp. And then winter camp will be December 2nd through the 4th in Miami. So know that those dates are on the schedule. Okay, so today we're talking about how to sell at a franchise expo. And there's a big one coming up in New York this weekend. I will be there. If you're there, be sure to come find the Growth Club booth. And so a few things that I want to call out for those that are trying to figure out how can we use a franchise expo to get lift. Now, for brands that have large budgets, I do advise that they use the franchise expos as a tool to introduce their brand to novice buyers. In today's world, many franchise brokers or consultants have marketed to the general franchise buyer, meaning I come to the table, I know how much money I have an idea of what I'm passionate about, I don't know which pathway to go. So the franchise broker community has done a great job at cannibalizing these candidates and bringing them into their funnel to say, let's work you through this inventory. For a franchisor, what that means is you're going to pay a commission, quite large commission, if that buyer ends up going through the broker and into your business. I do think broker deals are valuable back to franchising. I just want to see it be closer to 50-50, 50% organic, 50% through the broker model. Okay, so you have the funds to exhibit at an expo. Let me be very clear. My advice for a brand that doesn't have a lot of cash is this is a very expensive crapshoot. To put it into perspective, we're spending about $7,000 on the booth, another $2,000 to make the booth. We are spending, I don't know, on airfare, probably another $2,000 on airfare, $3,000 on hotels. We are doing an event there, call that another $3,000. So the amount of money that goes invested into one of these things builds up quite large. Now, for us as an organization, we're going to be working with suppliers to get them into Fran Camp and into our supplier database on 1851. We're going to be working with franchisors to get them into Growth Club, into 1851, into Mainland, our agency side. We're going to be working with franchise buyers to help coach them into the right opportunity. So every single person that's walking that floor is someone that we want to be talking with per the way that we've structured our business. So that's the way that we're looking at it. But for emerging franchisor, if you're looking at this, say, boy, we got to get a deal to make this make sense because the all-in investment is close to that $20,000 range, it is a crapshoot. Now, there are things that you can do to help give you the best fighting shot to win. One is you have this booth, and we're going to use the New York Franchise Expo as the example. You have this booth, and people are going to be walking past you. Now, some of them are going to stop, some of them are not. Advice number one is don't sell. You're developing candidates. A developed candidate that is developed relationship building into your system, the odds of success are higher than those that are sold in or convinced to buy the franchise. Secondly, you have this giant database of cold leads, whether your giant list is 10 or your giant list is 1,000. You have all these human beings that have inquired about owning your business in the past. And so if you could take those candidates and say, hey, come meet me at this expo, it's another tool to meet them in person. So if I'm drawing a circle around New York and what states are there, it'll give you a sense of where you can invite some of those guests back and meet you at your booth. If you break down what's happening at this expo, you have hundreds of franchisors that want the same person that you want, someone who's qualified and ready to buy. So standing out is essential. And here you have this 10 by 10 booth that you're hoping that the way that you've messaged things, it's going to drive people to have curiosity enough to talk with you. That's a big lift. And so getting out on that floor and networking ends up being your best tool. And if it's me, I'm also looking at networking with other franchise brands that are around a similar investment, because if I can build a collective and say, look, if you talk with someone and they are not the right fit for you because you're either sold out or for whatever reason you're not registered in that state, then what if we do a connection exchange here, and I'll walk someone over to you, you walk someone over to me. And so you start building up that energy with other similar type investments. Now you're finding people that can fit. And if they're going to be rejected for insert reason, why not make that connection over to someone else? So I think that's a valuable piece to have. When it comes to having conversations in this booth, my advice is schedule the follow-up as fast as possible. I've had brands say, boy, we got 100 leads at the expo. It was fantastic. 6 months later, I say, how did those 100 work out? They go, nothing. They all disappeared. Okay, so even if it was only 1 or 2 conversations post-show, if you're in this booth, you've had a conversation, you say, look, here's how our process works. Typically, if you filled out a form on our website, we're going to schedule call 1 with you, and we're going to educate you on what franchising is. Here, we're skipping that path because we're having this conversation in person. I would like to get the follow-up call booked. Can we book a time to talk either next week or the week after? And so what we're trying to do there is we're trying to actually progress that conversation to the next stage in the funnel versus leaving it wide open, because beyond you, that candidate talked with you, and now they walked over to the next pretzel brand, and they're like, boy, but I like this pretzel brand. And now you lost that candidate. Hopefully by saying, hey, why don't we schedule a time to talk outside of this at depth? This is the intro. You're looking to buy a franchise in what period of time? You're looking at what category? Okay, we seem to have some alignment there. Let's get that call scheduled. So book that call immediately following there. You want to go even better. Ask them to connect on LinkedIn. Say, I just want to be connected with you outside of this, because scanning a badge or putting their information into your funnel, that's not a real lead. That's someone that you met at a networking event, but you're skipping over the key component of networking. Let me back up. If I'm at a networking event, think about a networking event, and I'm walking the room and I'm having a cocktail and I meet someone and they're like, hey, let me tell you about my business, and you tell them about yours. You've now made a connection. Now, typically in a networking event, one of 2 things happens. You either exchange information or you don't. And so they walk away. And maybe down the line, you see them at another networking event. You're like, hey, it's good to see you. How are things going? But you never exchange information. But they're now like, there's a familiar face. And so you think about how networking works, yet we use these expos almost like a sales function. And I think that's the backward side of this. So if you're using it as networking, you're trying to create that exchange of information, and then you're trying to create as much of a follow-up as possible, whether that's connecting on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, or it's saying, let's get a call scheduled beyond this next week. If I'm going to go now to that extension of call, you're basically trying to understand, like, what is the timeline of that buyer so you know how to use that call. Maybe in your sales process, you're thinking a little bit differently on that next call since you met them in person. So you've met them in person versus you met them online through a form fill. Maybe you're bringing someone else, another person to the table that can help answer those questions or introduce them. Or you're saying, hey, I would like to invite you to a webinar beyond this, like this, where I'm going to have a franchisee on here to help give you some advice on how they went about their process of buying a franchise. And if you really have depth, pull someone that actually bought a franchise or went through the process that started a connection at an expo if you had that in your table. So to recap, 1, you don't want to sell. These things are not like, don't oversell. Don't act like you're that excited to talk to someone. I mean, you got to still play some of the game. So don't oversell at these. This is a fantastic, tremendous opportunity to build a network. So don't just look at networking with the people that are in front of you. Look at networking around you as well. look at any existing candidates that are in your pipeline and use this as an opportunity to meet them if they're in the area. And it's not too late. I mean, the conference for New York starts in a few days. So send them an email saying, hey, I'm going to be in New York City. If you'd like to come meet me, that'd be awesome. And then use this as a way to have tremendous follow-up beyond this, because this is the entry point into the conversation. It should give you the tools to win beyond this. So that's my advice. That's how I'd use these things. If you are not financially strong from a capital standpoint, I'd be very careful on spending at these expos. There's a lot of risk. Maybe you put it into your plan that when we award our next franchise, we're going to set some money aside for an expo or two. Oh, last thing on the expos. Again, because I'm saying tri-state, in the past, expositions were used as a gathering for information. So I remember my first IFE was in Washington, D.C., and people would fly in, international people would fly in because they wanted to understand the depth. This is going many years back, 2006. A lot of people wanted to understand what brands existed in the category. The internet has changed that. Like, I can find any brand in any category possible today. So because of that rotation, the usage of this has changed. Therefore, you have to say, check mark, I do want to grow in this area, because the expo is only going to really pull people that are primarily, sometimes some international, but primarily looking to grow in that area. If that's the case and you award a franchise and say, next time you award a franchise, we're going to take that money and we're going to put it to the side and we're going to use it towards an expo, totally worth putting it into the mix. But again, go back to, people use the internet to find your brand, builds great buzz around it, make sure you have something that is viable from an opportunity standpoint, and then make sure that you're spending properly. So I do feel, in conclusion, you can win at franchise expos. You just have to really make it work and count for you. So if you're going to put the investment in, don't limp into it. Like, go full boat on saying, okay, we're going to make this count. Let's bring a team. Let's go network. Let's get in front of human beings. Let's push them through this process, and let's get them to get excited about our brand, because we have an advantage online. They're not meeting us and seeing our beautiful faces on our websites, or at least being able to communicate like this, or even a little bit more in depth in person. So use this as an opportunity to build that network and play the long game. Know that sometimes you might not close a deal at every show, but you're investing in building relationships that over time should help you on your mission to grow your franchise. I'm Nick Piles, publisher of 1851franchise.com. Go use our website, more resources on there to help you win at franchising. Take care.